I was starting my freshman year of high school, belonging to a new city, hoping that my fellow classmates would come to accept me as their equal. I said goodbye to my new home and arrived at school with minutes to spare. I attended my classmates as any other student would, but for any independent time, I would sit in silence, watching students form their standard social groups, longing to fit in myself. The clock strikes 3 p.m. and it's time for ninth period. I recall an announcement being made earlier about athletic students reporting to the bus lane for it. So without a second thought, I hop on the bus and arrive at the practice facility. To my surprise, golf isn't recognized by the school's standard athletics program. So on my first day of practice, I spent it running up and down the bleachers waiting for the bus to come back. On the second day of school, I was lucky enough to meet another golf student. He left in my story a bit, but he told me where to go during ninth period. Embarrassed, I went about my day seeming to forget golf isn't recognized by the school athletic program. So when ninth period came around, I was late to practice because I couldn't find a ride. Finally on the course, a full hour after practice should have started, I was ecstatic to finally meet people with similar interests to me. However, after catching up with where my team was, I quickly realized that the other freshman golf students and I had nothing in common. My heart sank after meeting the freshmen already on the varsity team, knowing I could not hit the ball to save my life. The snickers and comments under their breath rang louder than gongs in my ears as I embarrassed myself even further when my inability to consistently hit a golf ball became public information. I returned home depressed and defeated, knowing that my options are to go through that all again or go back to running sprints on the bleachers with the athletes. My dad picked me up from practice, half awake and sleep deprived, noticing how gloomy and depressed I looked. So he surprised me with a set of foam practice golf balls, encouraging me to prove my teammates wrong. Moved by the words of the one I look up to and trust the most, I get to work. During practice, I made sure I was the first member on the course and the last member to leave. After practice, I would use the foam balls to hit into a net to work on contact drills, and even before school started, I would practice putting on the carpet surfaces of my room, trying to sink the ball inside of a small cup. I'd repeat these habits for the foreseeable future until I got my shot at a junior varsity tournament. In short, I did horribly. I completely underestimated how much of a toll walking 18 holes in one go would have on my body, and I finished last amongst my team. At this point, my team dynamic had shifted, and they were starting to accept me. So when they noticed how upset I was over my poor performance, they tried to console and encourage me, but all I could remember was how I felt on my first day of practice. At the start of my sophomore year, my coach pulled me aside, acknowledging my efforts, and offered me to play in my first varsity tournament as a fill in, since this tournament, unlike the others, was 6 on 6. I was beyond excited. This was my chance to show that all of my efforts weren't a waste and actually contribute to the team. We finished the first hole, and I was pretty excited about how I was playing so far. I was confident. I felt like nothing could take me down from this moment. Little did I know that the most embarrassing moment of my golfing career would happen literally within the next 20 seconds. I grabbed my bag and started walking towards the next tee box, and I had already noticed that the dirt on this course was a very chalky gray color. So when I saw a large patch of it under some trees right in front of the next tee box, I was oblivious to the trap that stood before me. It was mud. My foot slipped as soon as I entered the puddle. I flopped back in an embarrassing fashion, and I was now covered in head to toe mud for the remainder of this tournament. Now, this was a low for me, but it turned out to be pretty bittersweet because although I embarrassed myself and my coach took pictures of it and posted it on his Facebook because he was uh, dumbfounded and trying not to laugh, we did finish second place and I received a trophy for that tournament. This is would be the end of my varsity time for sophomore year. And at the start of my junior year, my coach pulled me aside again and said, "Hey, how would you like to earn a spot on varsity for the remainder of this season?" He said to me, "All you have to do is win the qualifying tournament between yourself and the rest of the junior varsity team." I was like, "Yes, this is my moment. This is my chance to prove myself once again and establish a new motif." So after our 2-day qualifier, I looked down at my scorecard because I was just writing the numbers down and I don't like to count in the middle of a round. And I realized that I had played perhaps the best golf of my career at that time and shot an 89 between the 2 days of qualifiers. My coach was beyond impressed with my performance and granted me a spot on varsity where I would remain for the rest of my time in high school.